Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the news and updates on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I'm Daemon Hatfield, and as always, I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox Podcast Unlocked.
Happy GDC week, Daemon.
Happy GDC week to you as well. And Max Scoville, host of IGN's PlayStation Podcast Beyond.
It's been unreal, Daemon.
It certainly is unreal. It is Game Developers Conference Week in San Francisco, which is a place when game developers like to show off interesting new tools that they've been working on, and that's exactly what Unreal Engine did today when this was being recorded, showing off new features for Unreal Engine 5. Unreal Engine 5 was announced 3 years ago with another very impressive tech demo. It remains impressive, everything that we've seen from it. There are still very few games out today that are using Unreal Engine 5 on the PS5 and Xbox Series X, but we'll get to that in just a moment. What was shown off today was, first of all, Ninja Theory, developers of Hellboy II, a game that is going to run on Unreal Engine 5, we're showing off the MetaHuman Animator, which will apparently push the boundaries of real-time facial animation. They gave a little tech demo today. It was a very cool, very impressive, very realistic-looking facial animation demo. In my opinion, it doesn't completely deliver us out of the uncanny valley, but still very cool. And also as cool as that you can use an iPhone to actually just to capture that performance. With there's lots of really cool possibilities behind that. Perhaps more interestingly is also the procedural content generation framework, which Epic claims it's an in-editor that tool that will allow artists to define rules and parameters to quickly populate expansive, highly detailed spaces. So an artist-driven way to procedurally generate environments for the player. So that's a lot, and the demos are all very cool to look at. Ryan, let's begin with you because I think, both Hellblade 2 is coming to Xbox, and I think the substrate mechanic could be put to use in racing games, which I know that you're a fan of. So what was sort of your reaction to these new mechanics that they revealed today?
Well, I have to say, it made me actually less optimistic that Hellblade 2 is going to come out this year, only because the stuff looked so advanced. And as you said, Damon, so far, we haven't seen any of it actually playable on our consoles outside of the playable Matrix Awakens tech demo. But in terms of, like you said, actual games, we haven't seen it just yet. So it leaves me a little skeptical that we're going to be 6 to 8 months away from getting Hellblade 2 and really seeing this on our screen. But the games are going to come eventually, and I hope I'm wrong on this, and I hope Hellblade 2 is a big fall 2023 game for Xbox. But I selfishly, that was my first thought, is like, oh, Hellblade 2 is not going to come out this year, is it? It's still, to get to this level of quality, it's going to be a little while longer probably. But who knows, that we haven't been given a release date for Hellblade yet. We shall see, but yeah, I mean, they're not promising that this is what games will look like this year. They're just saying it's hey, use our engine, and this is what could be possible with your game as you build it. So Hellblade will at least be one of the first major examples, at least on the first-party side from either Sony or Microsoft, I believe, that is utilizing Unreal 5. So we'll see if it's going to be this fall or maybe sometime next year.
Max, what was your reaction to the tech demos that were shown off today?
So these things always completely get me really excited because they are, they're selling sizzle. They get you excited. They show you about the possibilities in the future of video games. But in the same way that, a George Foreman grill doesn't come with a perfectly made steak and a Bowflex won't give you abs out of the box. It's a matter of actually using the thing that they're, your results may vary on how you're using them. And, Epic always wants to show off the full potential here. What I think is the most exciting is the stuff like the MetaHuman animation capture tech, like where you can just whip out your iPhone and I guess use LiDAR to do performance capture on your own. Like that's going to be insane to see how indie devs make use of that. And again, like, I think we condition ourselves to sort of assume that if something says Unreal 5 on it, it's going to look like the Matrix Awakens tech demo or, the stuff that they showed off today, or automatically it'll look like Hellblade. But that's not always the case, and it's very much, what is it, like in a car commercial? It's like professional driver closed course. It's like these aren't playable by a long shot. This is a tech demo. It's exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about not everything having the same exact visual look, that's been the case with Unreal for a while. Like there are certain games in the past, I think, where there'd be kind of an Unreal sheen to it, but like Borderlands is an Unreal Engine franchise, and it has a highly stylized look, and it will be interesting to see how. I think you pointed out indie game developers. How about, I know this is Next Gen Console Watch on IGN, a video game show. How about indie filmmakers?
Oh, that's huge
as well, right?
I mean, we've talked about how Unreal's used to make the Mandalorian. That's what they're building sets in there.
Virtual set, yeah.
We could have such a cool set back here. We just have to get good at Unreal to make it look. We can change weather conditions and lighting and all that. It's that dynamic use here, and it's I don't know. That's very exciting. One thing that's really cool is announcing that you can now tinker around in Unreal 5 in Fortnite.
Yeah.
Which is there's an entire.
That's the Trojan horse right there.
Yeah, I mean I've been saying this about kids who've grown up with Minecraft, a lot of whom I think kind of segued into Fortnite, but they're so good at working within that space, and maybe they're not necessarily going to open up like the Unreal development kit and actually start poking around in there. But if it's like, hey, take your Thanos skin and your pickaxe and go start designing levels. That's pretty cool. And, there's already custom creator made stuff in Fortnite, but to like segue from that into like an actual game development engine is pretty exciting.
Yeah. So Unreal Engine 5 announced 3 years ago. The games, it's kind of slim pickings for games that are out there right now on PS5, Xbox Series X that use Unreal Engine 5. I think really the only high-profile one, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, is Fortnite. Mm-hmm. But there is some upcoming games. Hellboy 2, of course. Stalker 2, also on Xbox.
Right.
Lords of the Fallen, The Lords of the Fallen. And then Tekken 8. I think it doesn't have a release date yet, but that's supposed to be out this year sometime. And then a little bit further down the road is Black Myth Wukong and Dragon Quest 12. But that's kind of it for games that are released, big games that are announced that are going to be using Unreal Engine 5. Stuff that's coming up this year like Redfall, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and Dead Island 2 are all Unreal Engine 4. Everything Capcom uses the Resident Evil engine. Lots of third parties have their own proprietary stuff. EA uses the Frostbite engine for a lot of different things. Ryan, I think Starfield is the Creation Engine 2.
Yeah,
I think that's what that one's using.
And Damon, I'm glad you mentioned. I know there might be some commenters that pause on Redfall for a second because it was widely reported that Redfall was Unreal Engine 5, and we actually in our pre-episode research we got to the bottom of it. There's a quote from Harvey Smith, the game director, from Today, because today as we're filming, there was a preview embargo lifted for Redfall, so you can check out our full video preview on IGN or on our YouTube channel. And Harvey Smith was very, very clear about it. It's they were on Unreal 4 and moved to Unreal 4.26, I believe it is. But he said, no, they are not on Unreal 5, which it's kind of all over the internet, but that's not actually the case.
Right. But as a little side note, you got to play Redfall, Ryan?
I did.
Can you share just some first impressions here?
Sure. Well, we spent a lot more time on this on Podcast Unlocked, which you can also check out. But I liked it a lot, but I after playing for 90 minutes, it just didn't quite feel like enough. Like, Diablo 4 would binge the hell out of, pardon the phrasing, this past weekend. But yeah, just jumping into the Redfall world, it didn't just quite feel like enough to really kind of get a full picture of it. But the world, like Redfall itself, the art direction, the sense of place, the setting's great. The characters are interesting. It definitely, they had us playing solo. It felt like a co-op game that I just happened to be playing solo. So I'm looking forward to trying it in co-op. But yeah, for more, thank you for the chance to plug, Damon. Head on over to Podcast Unlocked.
So the new features that we saw today in Unreal Engine 5 look very cool, but these are tools that will soon be available to developers. The developers will have to learn how to use them, implement them into their games, and then ship their games eventually, which is a process that will probably take years. So I don't know, both of you, is it out of the realm of possibility that what we saw today is actually kind of a glimpse at the next generation of game consoles? Like the games that we see actually looking like that and utilizing these tools will be PlayStation 6, Xbox Series, Z.
I think we're going to see little bits and pieces of what we saw today get utilized. They talk a lot about sort of the lighting stuff. There's Lumen. There's the thing about where you can make rocks fall dynamically with chaos physics or whatever. It's these little things. We hear a lot about procedural generation or sort of AI driven sort of helping artists sort of lift a little bit of weight. And it's not like you click a button and it just makes the game for you. But as far as like, I don't know, if level design, if you've gone to the trouble of making a really cool, like, they showed off a bunch of really cool foliage laid out to make this kind of forest level, and they showed how you can sort of, it's not quite just copying and pasting, it's like smart copy pasting, where it kind of puts it on shuffle and makes a believable, kind of facsimile of that. Like it fits in that kind of universe, which I could see that saves a lot of time for developers who have to, previously go around and drop down individual ferns. And that's the kind of thing I think with any procedural generation, when you see it enough, you start to track the pattern. And I think you can see this in a lot of kind of roguelikes and stuff like that. You start kind of recognizing individual things that pop up. But that kind of stuff, I think we're going to see. I think there's going to be. It's not going to be exactly like what we saw today. But if you sort of go back and look at previous Unreal tech demos, there's always like a little bit that looks like they actually delivered on that or developers jumped on that. But there's always this kind of this layer of like fantasy, of sizzle really, that doesn't quite make it into the finished product.
Well, and part of that is, again, not being a game developer, but these tech demos, gorgeous as they are not full games with various like gameplay systems running and eating up CPU cycles that would otherwise be dedicated to just making that perfect little drip come off that plant, right? So, full games have other needs for the limited resources available. But to your point, Max, like we see at every console generation, the best looking games naturally come out towards the end of the console generation after developers have maybe had one go round on it with a previous game in the first half of the generation, and then a sequel or just whatever their next game is coming towards the end. So I do think that these first wave of Unreal Engine 5 games. So Damon, you mentioned The Lords of the Fallen that was in the tech demo. That was one of the tech demos at the State of Unreal thing. You mentioned, of course, Hellblade 2. Like if that first batch that hopefully we're going to see Tekken 8. You said that second half of this year or maybe sometime into next year. That I think will give us that'll kind of set the bar for like, okay, I'm sure those are going to look great, and then towards the back part of the generation, things are going to look even better. Now, whether they ultimately hit the visual bar set by these tech demos today, and even the tech demos of the last couple of these GDC presentations that Epic gives, that remains to be seen.
Now, I went back and looked at sort of the demos that were shown for each individual, Unreal Engine. And like Unreal 1, the first game that came out for that was fittingly Unreal.
Yeah.
And then for 2, it was America's Army, the sort of multiplayer recruitment game, which is a little weird. And then 3 was Gears of War. And then 4 was Daylight, which is like kind of a smaller, it was like a procedurally generated survival horror exploration game, where like the whole thing there was it was decent graphics, but like it didn't blow you away. The thing that it was doing was really playing with procedural generation and like having the game kind of make up its own routes there. And now we're either the thing that's showcasing Unreal 5 out the gate is either Fortnite season 4 or whatever, or Hellblade, and it's like those are very different things graphically. What they're doing is it's impressive either way.
Well, viewers, if you haven't seen any of the tech demos for Unreal Engine 5 that were released this week, make sure to watch them on IGN's YouTube channel. There's some very cool, very exciting stuff in there. Here's the poll results from last episode. We asked, what are the most essential PlayStation 5 or Xbox accessories? Number 1 by a long shot was extra SSD storage. That was definitely top of mind to all of our viewers, and I think that was actually our recommendation, our number 1 recommendation as well. A new poll for you to vote on for next episode. Which Unreal Engine 5 game are you most excited about? Hellblade 2, Lords of the Fallen, Stalker 2, Tekken 8? Make sure to vote at IGN.com. We'll share the results with you next episode. And that is going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Max and Ryan. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes in our LA and San Francisco studios to make all this possible. My name is Damon. We'll be back next week with more PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news. We'll see you then.